Humans can fit just so much information in their head, and so the advantage of AI is the ability to learn from a gigantic amount of data. End quote. And I might start off here by confessing that I was kind of scared of AI when I was growing up. I was watching all these Hollywood movies depicting evil robots as powered by artificial intelligence, and I was therefore very afraid of what this new technology would bring about in our lives and in the world. Today, though, understanding more and more about it, and I myself working with NVIDIA on a podcasting project in Brazil where I will be the official host of the podcast, I now harness the power of AI. I'm still a bit scared of it in a sense that I understand that it can be evil if developed by ill-intentioned people. As Elon Musk would say, AI is the reflection of the limbic system of who develops it. But I understand at the same time that it is the type of intelligence that makes us able to solve the problems that neither humans, neither ordinary computers would help us do because of all the data we have available today, as Jensen Huang, founder and CEO of NVIDIA, said in the above quote. And because I feel there is a big need to better understand AI, its power, and its shortcomings, that I picked the above quote to open this new episode of my podcast, Metanoia Club, an episode in which we will talk about what is the future of AI and why it is often considered to be the new electricity. Here's your host, Andrea Iorio speaking. I'm an Italian keynote speaker to more than 100 companies per year focusing on digital transformation, leadership, and innovation, and a best-selling author of 2 books in Portuguese. Yes, I've spent the last 10 years in Brazil. I'm now based in New York, and I've worked over the last 10 years as the head of Tinder in the region and as Chief Digital Officer at L'Oreal. I'm an economist specialized in behavioral science from Bocconi University. I hold a master's degree in international relations from Johns Hopkins University, and I currently teach at the Executive MBA at Fundação Dom Cabral, the top executive business school in Latin America, according to the Financial Times ranking. And if you enjoy the podcast and want to get in touch, you can contact me at andreaiorio.com or on LinkedIn, where I engage daily with my community of more than 65,000 followers with content at the intersection of business, technology, behavioral science, and philosophy. So, hit me up there. But before getting deep into our episode, I just wanted to share a bit more of a context around the podcast. So the objective here is to basically spark the reflections that we usually don't have the time, willingness, or even the courage to face in our day-to-day rushed lives. This podcast is not about providing the answers, but it is about bringing the hard questions and intellectual provocations to the table and creating the necessary urgency to change the way we lead, we innovate, and we do business in the digital age. How does it work? Well, after introducing the main character of the episode, we will listen to one of his or her quotes, and I will comment on this quote in depth, which is eventually the core of this podcast. And now that we are all clear, please let me share a bit more about the leader and entrepreneur that is at the core of this episode. Jensen Huang. He's a Taiwanese-American billionaire business magnate, electrical engineer, and co-founder of NVIDIA Corporation, where he currently serves as president and CEO. He founded NVIDIA in 1993 and has served since its inception, as president, chief executive officer, and member of the board of directors. The company started out in PC graphics, but then eventually it helped build the gaming market into the largest entertainment industry in the world today, which eventually is. The company's invention of the GPU in 1999 made possible real-time programmable shading, which defines modern computer graphics, and later revolutionized parallel computing. More recently, GPU deep learning ignited modern AI, the next era of computing, while the GPU acts as the brain of computers, robots, and self-driving cars that can perceive and understand the world. He was included in Time magazine's 2021 list of the world's 100 most influential people. In 2019, Harvard Business Review ranked him number 1 on the list of the world's 100 best performing CEOs of the lifetime of their tenure. In 2017, he was named Fortune's Business Person of the Year. He's simply amazing, and he's betting a lot now on AI and on the metaverse, which he calls the Omniverse. But let's start off listening to what he has to say about AI, about its power, in a chat with Masayoshi Son, the billionaire CEO of SoftBank. Listen up.
Human creativity, of course, is still unparalleled. Our ability to come up with unique ideas is still unparalleled. And machines are nowhere near that.
Right.
However, a computer can solve a problem that is so gigantic in scale that no humans can.
That's right.
The computer's advantage is scale, size. Yeah. It can look at petabytes and petabytes of data, and observe patterns from inside it.
And massive parallel effort, right?
That's right. In a way that no humans can.
Right.
Because humans can only fit so much information in our head. And so the advantage of AI is the ability to learn from a gigantic amount of data. The algorithm itself is kind of like a universal function approximator.
Yes.
It can learn almost any function.
Yep. Yep.
And it can learn the function from a great deal of data, and then that function can predict the future after it's learned.
Right.
So it can predict, it can infer from future circumstances. And so our observation, Masa, the great contribution we've made to the industry is realizing that AI is a brand new type of computer science. The software is different, the system is different, the chips are different, the methodology is different. And you need a computer to create the AI.
Right.
And you need a computer to run the AI.
Right.
These two types of computers are fundamentally different than the type of computers today.
During the Tesla Q1 2021 earnings call, Elon Musk told financial analysts attending the call the following. He said, "Although new people think of Tesla as an automotive or energy company, I think of it as much as an AI and robotics company as we are an energy company." An extremely ambitious plan, isn't it, the one he laid out? An example, that Tesla is working on the Dojo, a supercomputer, to train Tesla's self-driving AI. Elon Musk has already said that Tesla's Dojo supercomputer will be capable of an exaflop, a quintillion operations per second or 1,000 petaflops, making the Dojo one of the most powerful computers in the world. The Dojo was recently revealed, and fundamentally it is a machine for training artificial intelligence. In fact, the most powerful machine in the world for this kind of training is the Dojo. And Tesla is dealing with an insane amount of video data from its fleet of more than 1 million vehicles, which it eventually uses to train its neural networks. You see, an automaker considering itself more of an AI company rather than just an engineering company or a manufacturing company. And let's consider that we're talking about the most valuable automaker in the world. But what about the others? Are they not using AI? Wrong. They are, and the whole industry relies on semiconductors and on chips, as we know, due to the fact that the microchip shortage stopped production in many factories of the world. So think about it, what else would stop production? Very rare events such as shortage of electricity. And that's why we can consider AI as the new electricity, quoting Andrea Iorio from Stanford and chief scientist at Baidu, as he mentioned in an interview in 2017. He used this quote as the title of an article that he published by then and went viral. He said that basically artificial intelligence already powers many of our interactions today. When you ask for Siri for directions, navigate through Netflix recommendations, or get a fraud alert from your bank, these interactions are led by computer systems using large amounts of data to predict your needs. And this market is only growing. Worldwide artificial intelligence software revenue is forecasted to total $62.5 billion in 2022, an increase of 21.3% from 2021, according to a new forecast from Gartner. So electricity changed the way the world operated. It upended in transportation, manufacturing, agriculture, healthcare, and AI is poised to have a similar impact, he says. Information technology, web search, and advertising are already being powered by AI. It decides whether we're approved for a bank loan, it helps us order pizza and estimate our wait time, and even tell the driver where to deliver it. Other areas thrive on AI's impact. Fintech, logistics, healthcare, security, transportation. And, he said in that article, just as electricity transformed almost everything 100 years ago, today I actually have a hard time thinking of an industry that I don't think AI will transform in the next several years. Kevin Kelly, another great expert of AI and the founder of Wired magazine, also detailed even further his vision of the role of AI. He said in an interview that the value of artificial intelligence is to think differently. It's not that it's just smarter than humans. It's that it can be really, really smart and think differently than humans. The great thing about AI is that in general, it will become a service. It will be generated in a generation plant far from you, sent through the cables as far as you want, like electricity. 100 years ago, a lot of people got excited about electricity, and a lot of businesses were born that basically put together a pump, a washing machine, a blender, electrified them, and a huge business was born in electrifying things. And instead of producing electricity, they were just taking electricity from circulation, and they were electrifying their businesses. Electricity flowed into the grid from its source. It was a utility, a commodity, and this will happen soon with AI. You don't have to make your AI, but you can buy as much intelligence as you want, and it will flow in the same direction as the electricity flows, from the grid to wherever you want, and with it, it becomes a commodity. Okay, but let's better understand then what AI is and some of the terms related to it. The truth is that the concept of what defines AI has changed over time, but the core there has always been the idea of building machines that are capable of thinking like humans. After all, human beings has proven uniquely capable of interpreting the world around us and using the information we pick up to impact change. If we want to build machines to help us do that more efficiently, then it makes sense to use ourselves as a blueprint. AI, then, can be thought of as simulating the capacity for abstract, creative, deductive thought, and particularly the ability to learn, which then gives rise to, using the digital binary logic of computers. Research and development work in AI is split between two branches. One is labeled applied AI, which uses these principles of simulating human thought to carry out one specific task. The other is known as generalized AI, which seeks to develop machine intelligences that can turn their hands to any task, much like a person. The application of neuroscience to IT system architecture has led to the development of artificial neural networks. And although work in this field has evolved over the last half century, it is only recently that computers with adequate power have been available to make the task a day-to-day reality for anyone except those with access to the most expensive, specialized tools. So perhaps the single biggest enabling factor here that helped the adoption of AI has been the explosion of data which have been unleashed since mainstream society merged itself with the digital world. This availability of data, from things we share on social media to machine data generated by connected industrial machinery named IoT, means computers now have a better universe of information available to them to help them learn more efficiently and make better decisions. Look at the previous Tesla example, feeding huge amounts of video data to its AI. Who can have that massive amount of information as Tesla does? Nobody. And that's why they're advancing more quickly than the rest of the industry in terms of self-driving software. And moving forward with a bit of glossary, let's analyze what machine learning is, since I'm sure you listen to this term oftentimes, but not always get actually what it means. So you have to understand that machine learning is basically everywhere, since a 2020 Deloitte survey found that 60% of companies are using machine learning in some way or another, and 97% are using or planning to use it in the next year, at the same time that it is a subfield of artificial intelligence, which is broadly defined as the capability of a machine to imitate intelligent human behavior. AI systems are used to perform complex tasks in a way that is similar to how humans solve problems. See, machine learning starts with data, numbers, photos, or text like bank transactions, pictures of people, or even, bakery items, repair records, time series data from sensors or sales reports, and this data is gathered and prepared to be used as training data, or the information that the machine model will be trained on. The more data, the better the program. And from there, programmers choose a machine learning model to use, supply the data, and let the computer model train itself to find patterns or make predictions. Over time, the human programmer can also tweak the model, including changing its parameters to help push it towards more accurate results. And now let me introduce you to a last term for today, which I deem fundamental, namely deep learning. Deep learning networks are neural networks with many layers. The layered network can process extensive amount of data and determine the weight of each link in the network. For example, in an image recognition system, some layers of the neural network might detect individual features of a face, like eyes, nose, or mouth, with another layer would be able to tell whether those features appear in a way that indicates a face. Like neural networks, deep learning is modeled on the way the human brain works and powers many machine learning uses like autonomous vehicles, chatbots, and medical diagnostics. The more layers you have, the more potential you have for doing complex things well. Okay, but then Andrea, you might be wondering, what are the risks related to AI adoption? What might slow down AI adoption? And that's where we get to two fundamental problems here. One, scarcity of data, and second, scarcity of talent. And that's where the big battle is, according to Kai-Fu Lee, one of the world's biggest experts on AI, who argued in his bestseller AI Superpowers, which I read and that I loved, that on these two fronts, China is much better positioned to become an AI leader than the United States. But Kai-Fu Lee recently also published a new book called AI 2041. The book, co-authored with science fiction writer Jensen Huang, suggests how AI will bring sweeping changes to daily life in the next 20 years. And in it, there is a story called Contactless Love that illustrates the power of AI for healthcare. The pandemic has woken all us up about how fragile we are as human beings, and AI is ready to be adopted to help address future pandemics, future health issues, and future healthcare. Human healthcare is being digitalized in areas of wearable computing, radiology, genetic sequencing, and more detailed blood tests. Data can be fed into AI engines, whether it's for diagnosis, treatment, preventing, maintenance, or health exams. And an AI healthcare assistant can be invaluable in showing us where our vulnerabilities are, how to reduce these vulnerabilities, what kind of medicines to take, and how to exercise in a way that fits us personally. That's where a lot of data, right, is. And that's when AI is very suitable for high precision recommendations and decisions. A lot of other AI technologies are also hugely impactful, but also we have to consider that they can be used for good or bad. And I would like to close out this episode with a reflection coming from the last part of Kai-Fu Lee's book, where basically he suggests that AI might challenge traditional economics theory. And what does he mean by that? That if we look beyond 2041 at the longer 20 to 40 years time horizon, he says the cost of goods will come down dramatically. The cost of labor will also become lower because of automation, and the cost of materials will also be significantly reduced by advancements in life science and material science. The cost of energy will also come down with distributed solar plus battery storage, so that we've already seen big improvements in the last 10 years, but what he foresees is a very, very strong exponential advance. Not just the cost of everyday goods like our cell phones or cars should come down, he says currently non-manufactured things will become manufacturable. For example, food, vegetables, and meat will start to be produced in the factory, not necessarily so much on the farm. We will reduce many of today's problems to manufacturing problems. At the same time, the cost of providing everyone with a home, food, basic transportation, and clothing should be doable. That is, we should be able to wipe out poverty and hunger. And alongside of that, our existing economic systems are not going to work anymore. That includes the market economy or capitalism, the stock market, money, and jobs. And in the book, he calls it the age of plenitude. So my question is he maybe being slightly too optimistic? Because in the future, routine jobs will be taken by AI. So the meaning of a job might change. The meaning of money might change because the state may want to subsidize everyone with universal basic income. We also may want to motivate people not just by money. Money may not be the single measure of compensation. So I think the positive part will be our ability to make a lot of things at a much lower price. AI will do the routine jobs for us. But what about the jobs being misplaced? What about the companies that need a profit to justify their stock prices? What are things, right? There are a lot of things that have to be solved. So that for every benefit, there's also a set of problems to be solved in this so-called age of plenitude. So I'd like you to think about this, what you would do as a leader, as an assignment during this week. Let me know how it goes by writing to me through my social media on LinkedIn or also through my website, andreaiorio.com. And that's it for today. Thanks for making it until the end. I'd also love to hear what you think about the episode and see you in the next episode of Metanoia Club.